Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Open Books podcast. We are so excited because today we are joined by one of our all-time favorite thriller authors, Karin Slaughter. This interview honestly feels so surreal for us.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah. One of the first books we read for our podcast, Karin, was Pretty Girls years ago, and it was a huge hit in our little parish. We talked about it on the way here. This book, The Secrets We Hide, and We're All Guilty Here, feels very comfortable to us because it's very small town. And we come from a very small town. Yeah. So you're a big author in our small town. And
Yes.
Pretty Girls was one of our biggest hits for the podcast. So
Yes.
yeah, talking to you today and picking your brain is very exciting for us.
Yeah.
Great.
So just to kind of get us started, we're going to do a fun little icebreaker, so to say. So we're going to ask a question, just first thing that comes to your mind, just to kind of get us going. Are you a coffee person or a tea person?
Both.
Me too.
Really?
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes. Are you more of a morning writer or are you a night owl?
I'm not a night owl. I write in the morning and then I nap and then I write in the evening. But past a certain point, I gotta just chill and watch TV. So but I get up at 6. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Relatable.
Very relatable. What's one word that would describe your writing process?
napper.
Wait, what was it?
Napper. Yeah, I gotta take a nap, man.
He's got a nap in between.
I love that.
You have to recharge, though. I think that's such a big thing. You
Yeah.
just keep going.
Yeah.
Burnout.
Yeah.
Which of your characters, any book, would you most want to have dinner with?
Well, you said Pretty Girls. I think Claire would be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I think she'd get up to some shit though.
I think so too.
I loved her character. So I think let's not waste any time. Let's get into
The book?
the book.
Yes. So we actually recorded a whole podcast episode on We Are All Guilty Here. And we loved it. We deep dove into it. So we were very, very excited to be part of The Secrets We Hide and to get back into Emmy Clifton's world.
Yes.
Emmy Lou. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of the book. Pretty spoiler free. But for anyone listening who maybe hasn't read the book and just wants to join in and hear what you have to say, here's just a little summary of what, the main things that go on. And then we'll get into some questions about it. Does that sound good?
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Okay, so welcome to North Falls, a small town with big secrets. So 1601 Irish Drive looks like any other house on the quiet residential street, but rumors are rampant about the Vickery family and what goes on behind closed doors. When gunshots ring out, Sheriff Emmy Clifton and her sister, ex-federal agent Jude Archer, discover a devastating crime scene. Allison Vickery has been murdered in her own kitchen, and her teenage daughter is bleeding upstairs, left for dead. Everyone thinks they knows what happens, but secrets are buried everywhere in this small town, and it's up to Emmy Clifton to uncover the truth. So we were super excited to see what Emmy and Jude were up to, and we're pretty stoked that this one kind of picked up where We Are All Guilty Here left off. So the first question for you is, for readers who loved We Are All Guilty Here, what excited you most about returning to this world and these characters?
Well, I should make it clear that the fact it picks up a few days later or weeks later is very deliberate, because I want the books to feel like they're more of a movie, where there's cliffhangers and the story continues in the next installment. And that the way I did that was, as soon as I finished Guilty, I wrote that first chapter of Secrets. Yeah, just to keep in the tone and keep in the head of the characters, because where they are in their lives in that moment is as important as the story. And so I wanted to make sure that they work seamlessly one after the other. But also I got to make sure, if you've never read Guilty, you can still pick up Secrets, and hopefully you'll want to go back, but it still makes sense.
I was going to say, if you went in blind to, you didn't read book one, it is a seamless, you can pick it up and understand what's going on. And you'd want to go back.
Yeah.
To know.
We plan on having The Secrets We Hide as our August book club, and I was going to tell readers that you should read We Are All Guilty Here, but I definitely think if you wanted to start at Secrets, you could.
Yeah.
I also agree with what you say about like keeping in that headspace of Emmy, because a lot of times I found myself when I was reading The Secrets We Hide remembering or getting flashbacks to what Emmy had just went through, and We Are All Guilty Here. And I'm like, geez, Emmy just can't catch a break because she had like such a crazy run.
Yeah.
And We Are All Guilty Here, and she just dropped into another crazy case.
Days later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so your books don't shy away from some incredibly dark and disturbing crimes. I'm sure you've been asked this question, but I know a lot of our readers want to know. Are you able to like compartmentalize, or what's your writing process when you're writing such sometimes like horrific scenes and like crimes against women? How do you kind of like separate yourself and, you know, take care of your emotional at the same time?
Yeah, you know, I really do compartmentalize a lot, but I think women do that in general. I mean, we all read the news, we see horrible shit happening to women, and we still love men. We still, go out and live our lives. We hope for the best. Maybe he's not a serial killer. But I think that's like something I was raised to do just by virtue of the fact that I was a girl living in the world who was a teenager who suddenly had all these weird men come out of the woodwork, talking to me, which is something Emmy talks about with her father, right? That just the men who aren't the creepy men aren't aware of it happening at all. So in a lot of ways that has taught me to compartmentalize. But even in a book like Pretty Girls, there's a lot of humor. And there's this sense, my grandmother used to say, you can't fall off the floor, that there's always going to be the opportunity to get back up. And there's a sense of hope, and that the right people are going to win instead of the bad people winning, which a lot of stuff happening in the world right now seems like the bad people are winning. So I think in that regard, it's great to read books where, the good people are winning, and women, have good people in their lives, and they have a lot of support, and they have friendships, and they have problems, and they're raising their kids, but they still do their jobs really well. And, that kind of thing is what's always interested me, is showing the lightness as a contrast to dark.
Totally.
I love that so much.
I love that too. And there really are so many witty moments in your books, especially in this book, like it comes to mind of Emmy and Jude. They have so much witty banter that it definitely like, you don't feel this heaviness the whole time you're reading.
And it felt real. Their conversations in their relationship felt so real. Like you would like in real life. So I appreciate that a lot. I also really love You Can't Fall Off the Floor.
I love that. Me too.
I'm going to start using that.
Emmy has a good way of like keeping things light, even though she's going through so much. She's very like sarcastic humor, and so that's really fun to read. Okay, thank you for that. So one of the central themes in The Secrets We Hide is the secrets families keep from one another. What drew you to exploring that idea, and what do you think about family secrets that makes a fictional novel so compelling?
Well, so part of it is when I was growing up, my grandmother was a victim of domestic violence at the hands of my grandfather. And it wasn't a secret. I mean, we all knew it was happening, but we never talked about it. And I think lots of families have those secrets that everybody knows that they never talk about. And so that felt like a kind of universal thing. But, then there's some things, as you find out in Guilty, that nobody knows about. And to me, that's the fun of reading these books, is, things as a reader that characters don't know. And I love playing with that, right? Because it gives you a lot of, it gives you a feeling of like being in the story and what it would be like to be Jude's friend or Emmy's friend, or, I think everybody knows somebody like Tabby, Emmy's cousin, and everybody knows somebody like the Uncle Penley, especially if you live in the South. As I say, he's a man whose body is built for a drunken golf cart accident. All his center of gravity is low. We've all got that guy in our lives.
Totally.
Yeah. I think that's why we love it so much. And we're like, oh, it reminds us of where we're from. I think it is that like Southern, like root tie-in.
Yeah. So we're from South Louisiana, New Orleans.
You can tell.
So really. So we were talking about on the way here how funny it is. Like in this book, you really do a good draw into what it's like to live in a small town, how like everyone knows those main 5 last names of people who are
Yes.
prominent in the town. There's a couple streets that are, very local to everybody. And we experience that every day.
Yeah.
And the secret's within,
A community.
a community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a really interesting question that we were curious to hear. One of the things that stands out in this book is how realistic Emmy's work as a detective feels. So the investigative details are super immersive. What kind of research goes into writing those scenes?
I talk to lots of not just detectives, but I try to find female detectives because I think their perspective on things can be a little different. And what I think is most important to capture is just how confusing everything is. I mean, it's very easy for us to all play armchair detective and look back at these cases and say, well, why didn't they do this? Why didn't do that? And it's like you're looking at this one clue that actually panned out and they had thousands, right? And so I really play in The Secrets We Hide with that because, there's at certain points, Emmy's like, I have no idea. Is this about this? Is it about that? Is it, it could be all these different things. And particularly when you're dealing with crime or, with murder, a lot of people who get murdered are murdered because they've put themselves in bad situations, right? And so you find criminals who are murdered and the only witnesses are other criminals, and suddenly you're finding out they've been criming in different ways that have nothing to do with murder, and so then it can be very confusing, and there's that kind of fog of war in early investigations, and I tried to capture that.
Yeah. You do a great job with that. And it's true.
You do.
Emmy gets so many different clues throughout the novel. She gets like one phone call about one thing, and then the next minute another phone call, and then her son is telling her about something else he found. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I was Emmy, I wouldn't know which direction to go.
Yeah, and then I love how much research that you put into your books because you can really, really feel that. There's actually a quote
Yes.
that Colby had found when we were reading the book and we were talking about, and I think we wanted to touch on it a little bit.
Yeah, I just found this quote. I highlighted it because it really stuck with me, because in all of these, sometimes disturbing scenes, or even when you're reading your books and you're wanting to know, like, who's the murderer, like, who's the culprit, you also have a really good way of weaving in, like, the psychology of people who are going through traumatic things. And this quote stuck with me because I felt like it really encapsulated what it feels like as an average person when you're hit or you're in the middle of a traumatic situation. So you said, the brain tends to experience tragedies in slow motion. It's as if a switch is flipping on. Adrenaline floods areas like the amygdala, sending them into hypervigilant mode, allowing a faster response time and detailed memory encoding. In the moment, everything slows down. Colors, sights, sounds, the tiniest details are made more brilliantly alive in order to increase your chances of survival. And I just thought, wow, that was a really good way to describe what these characters are feeling when you're going through something so traumatic. You just kind of shut down and the world around you kind of slows down. And I think that's really relatable for anybody who's been through anything that, has been in your books.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend about who went through childbirth, and she, her brain just, they say you forget, but she didn't forget. I mean, she lost 4 pints of blood. She almost died. And so during the C-section, she was just completely and totally aware of everything that was going on. And she thought that it took hours. And that's just because, that's what your brain does. It just slows down that trauma. And a lot of what we know about post-traumatic stress disorder and the treatment of PTSD is teaching the brain, hey, that did not take hours. That, was just a blip, and, trying to get your that part of your brain that you're not necessarily in touch with to understand that this happened and you're okay now, because you can stay triggered in that fight part of your fight or flight.
Yeah.
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 And it's hard to not give things away in the book. But one of the things, again, that I appreciated was Jude was kind of in a lot of times, walking Emmy through that fight or flight mode. So that was nice to see too, because also relatable.
Yeah. I love Jude and Emmy's relationship so much. That kind of leads us into our last overall question of the book is, obviously we're left with some questions. What can we expect, or when can we maybe expect to hear more from Jude and Emmy and see what happens in this next chapter?
Next year. I'm working on it now. Yeah. I'm working on the third one. It picks up a few months after the end of this one. And all new crazy things are happening.
Amazing.
I am so excited.
I need all of these books in like a Netflix series or something. Like I want to put faces
I'm like
to the name.
side-eyeing, like, can we expect that?
Can we expect a Netflix series? Well, we will be the first people to watch if so.
Great.
Okay, well, that's going to lead us into our next set of questions. So these are from our listeners who were so excited to know that we were going to have some time to talk with you. So this question was submitted by Amanda. So this is kind of like open to any of your books for this segment. Relating to the Grant County and Will Trent series, how far out are you planning character twists? They would love to see visual character map and how you quietly foreshadow something that may happen down the road.
Yeah, I did that a lot in Grant County because the way the series ends, like by the third book, if you really pay attention, you know what's coming. And don't worry, there's no plan to stop Will Trent right now. So don't go back and look for clues. But I do think long term. When I wrote the first North Falls, I had an idea for the second and third and fourth. And in a lot of ways, it makes it harder to write because I have to figure out how to plant clues to the fourth novel and the first one and set up a world where all of these different stories will work. And, maybe I'll introduce a character in Secrets that really pans out in the next book. So it's a lot of juggling. But as someone who loves reading crime series, that kind of thing is so rewarding to me. Like, oh, I remember this character, from, whatever scene in Guilty. And now suddenly they're like taking on a bigger role. And I mean, I think that's so much fun to have those little Easter eggs in there. But also I have to write it so if you've never read any of the books and you just pick up one, you know who the characters are.
That seems like such a challenge to do.
Mm-hmm. It is very rewarding for a reader, though.
Yes.
To connect
the payoff.
dots.
Yes.
I'm glad.
This question is from Andrea. Who is your favorite character you have written?
Boy, that's so hard. Uh-oh. That's so hard. I mean, everybody has different ones they love. I've been writing about Sarah Linton the longest. I really love her. But, I like Jude too. I like the Jude-Emmy relationship because I feel like they are, not that I'm 60, but I feel like, when you're in your 20s as a woman, you're just sort of like, and then you hit 30 and you're like, oh, crap. Like, it's like all this shit I cared about when I was 20 does not mean anything. And then you're like 40 and you're like, oh, God. What the hell happened? How did I get to be 40? And you're like 50 and you're like, I do not give a shit.
I can't wait for that.
This is so crazy that you just said that because we were also having this conversation on the way here. We were like,
yeah.
I wonder what it's going to be like.
Yeah, because I'm turning 30 in August and I was like, wow, I just feel like there's so many things I cared about in my early 20s. I'm just like, I couldn't care less. I can't wait for what I don't care about when I'm 40.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot, girl. A lot.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah. So excited. Well, I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, if that's okay with you.
That's okay with you. So this question is from Jessica. Everyone usually asks what made you want to be a writer, but I would like to know about the moment that you first realized that you wanted to write thrillers and mysteries.
That's a really good question because my first novel, as a Southern writer, I thought I had to write the next Gone with the Wind. And so I was in historical fiction and I got my agent through that and nobody wanted it. And they said, we love your writing, but not this story. And my agent said, what do you want to do? And I said, I've always wanted to write a thriller. And so I sat down and I started writing Blindsided. And that was when I really found my voice. It's like giving myself permission to write in this genre was just opening a door to all kinds of possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, look behind you and just see all of the legacy there,
Yeah.
Well, we truly cannot thank you enough for giving us some of your time today. It's truly been such a special conversation for us and our listeners and, you know, anyone that reads your books. So for everyone listening in, The Secrets We Hide is available wherever you find your books. And if you haven't read We're All Guilty Here yet, you'll definitely want to pick that up first. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the Open Books Podcast, leave us a review, and follow us on social media for any other book discussions that we have. Again, we're very grateful that you joined us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Karin.